I've got Lloyd Davies with me today. Lloyd is the Managing Director of Convey Law. He's also the Operations Director of the Conveyancing Association. Thanks for agreeing to come on the PLS podcast today. So Lloyd, just wanted to ask you a few questions about the conveyancing market and how both you, from your Convey Law perspective and also the Conveyancing Association perspective, how you're finding things. So how are you and Conveyancing Association members finding the market, the conveyancing market, since last March?
Busy. Incredibly busy. It's been a very, very challenging time, I think, isn't it? I think, we obviously went into lockdown this time last year, and then everything actually did shut, didn't it? If we recall, 6 weeks. And then we all sort of thought, oh, we're not going to have any work. And then all this work came back in, and it really did come back in with a flourish, didn't it? After the SDLT news and the deadline, etc. And I think transactions are up about 30%. So normally we would expect to get about 1 million transactions through in a year, and I think they're at 1.3 or something like that now. So it's been a very, very difficult and challenging time for everyone. I think the last thing everyone wanted actually was an SDLT holiday. I think, and I think as business owners, that's proved a real challenge, because it was hard enough to get rid of the backlog and then to deal with all of this new work that was coming in. But we were in and out of lockdown, so you didn't quite know whether or not to take the work in, not to take the work in. You had to make up for the work that we hadn't had. And so it looks like our capacities were good. But what's happened is that I think there's been a huge backlog now that's actually going through. And I think most CA members, and certainly at Convey Law, we've recorded record months now. December was huge, which it normally is anyway, because it's a false deadline. But obviously the 31st of March, everyone had geared up to it. So we're completing almost double what we would expect to this month. And I think, we've got challenges going forward this year as well, because we've got a series of deadlines as well coming up with the SDLT, holidays coming to an end or tapering off, and then obviously Christmas again. So I think it is a challenge for everyone at the moment. I think just with the volume of work. So, big challenges out there.
It certainly is. Yes, we've absolutely found the same at PLS, and all good and successful conveyancing firms, I think, have struggled with the same issues. Just an absolute multitude of cases brought about certainly at the end of the first lockdown, and then the icing on the cake really was the stamp duty holidays. As you said, we probably didn't need that on top of the work that we're already getting. No,
absolutely. And I think staff reaction to that, being extended as well within Convey Law was always was difficult. And I'm sure that everyone's found that as well. The thought of having another 3 months that was similar to the last 3 months is tough. But, obviously it has given us the ability to get more people through, I guess, and avoid sort of issues and, just try to manage the situation. I'm hoping it'll get a little bit easier as we go forward now, because we've got rid of a lot of the backlog, I think.
Yeah, we think that the extension of the stamp duty holiday from March to June won't have the sort of same effect and won't translate into the same volume and the same pressure as we did in the run up to the first announcement. Have you found that clients' attitudes have changed over the last 12 or so months in the process? I can see you smiling there.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a frustration out there, isn't there? I think, and I mean, everyone is expecting everyone to be doing everything as they do normally. And of course, we've had huge challenges, haven't we, across the industry in terms of people working from home, people having to work with their children around them, having to homeschool at the same time as working full time. I'm pretty sure that half of our conveyancers would rather have had, less money, less work, and just been able to sort of manage what was going on around them. But it just hasn't been an option. And clients really, we've had to communicate in a different way with clients, literally telling them, look, this isn't as good as it's going to be as what we'd expect it to be. So please, try and sort of, bear with us. And that was a big sort of driver, I think, for the Be Kind, We Care initiative. So that, we were sort of say to people, look, please be kind to us because we're doing our best. And I think, everyone in the industry, it's not just clients, is it? It's estate agents, introducers of business as well. They need to understand that actually we're not working under normal circumstances here. We've got a hell of a lot more work than what we'd normally expect to have. And most of our staff are working from home, so, there's different drivers all around, isn't there?
Yeah, no, there is. So tell us about Be Kind We Care. Then really, that's what today is mostly about.
Yeah, well, it's a sort of well-being initiative. I think as a result of the pandemic, I think most business owners are sort of recognising that they've had to be a little bit more switched on in terms of how they look after their staff. They're not seeing them a lot of the time. I think we have had some really nasty reactions from certain people in the industry and it upsets people, doesn't it? I think if someone's shouting at you down the phone or sending you emails all in capital letters marked in red in bold, it's kind of it can ruin your day. And I think as well, when people are at home and they are isolated, that can be quite dangerous as well. So I think it was just a little bit about sort of we had a number of people within the industry approach us and say, look, can't we do something? And so we thought, well, actually, let's just put it out there. So we created a little bit of a logo with it. The Conveyancing Foundation was established 10 years ago to help everyone raise funds for charity. And so it's been the medium that we've used to sort of take that further. We've teamed up with Law Care and agents together and the Mindstep Foundation, which is a mental health charity, to try and pull together a sort of a bit of a resource hub that everyone could actually sort of use to look at how they deal with certain things that are happening at this time. And we're looking to raise a bit of money as well. Thank you very much for PLS's very kind donation. You were the first one to donate, Dan, so thank you very much for that. And we're looking to put sponsorship packages out there now, but it's more about raising awareness, really, and it's more about, being kind to each other. We're all professionals. We're all in this together. And again, just with our staff at Convey Law, I said, look, you may be frustrated you can't get through to Barclays because you've only been on the phone for 2 hours, right? But it's not necessarily the operative's fault on the other end of the line, So, we all have to sort of take responsibility a little bit with it. So it's been well received. It's sort of starting to gain a little bit of momentum now, but I'm hoping it's going to be a bit of a long burner, this. I notice that you're doing some good work with your staff as well with Perkbox, and you've got an initiative going there as well, haven't you?
Yes, at PLS we launched the Team PLS initiative nearly 12 months ago now, which was in a similar way really to raise awareness of what's going on, to acknowledge the fact that things have changed and that our staff and our counterparts in other firms are, quite a lot busier than we'd like them to be. Probably not as happy as we'd like them to be in many cases, and to raise that awareness, and particularly not just internally but externally as well. We wanted this to carry across to the other parties that are involved in a transaction, brokers, agents, lenders, and so on. But we thought if we started internally, it would sort of expand from within to the outside, and that was why it was quite pleasing for PLS to see the Be Kind We Care campaign, because we think that's pretty much an extension of what we at PLS were doing internally already, and it's great to see that we're all thinking along the same lines, really.
Yeah.
And so I guess it's quite early days, is it really, for the Be Kind We Care campaign to understand the impact that it will have, but so far so good, I think you're saying.
Yeah, very positive, I think. I mean, today's Conveyancer has sort of brought together a similar type initiative at the same time. So, it is all about being kind to each other and just sort of getting us through this next year. I think there's going to be challenges this year with these different deadlines, and I think people, we're hoping that we'll all come out of it, and the lockdown restrictions are easing a bit, which will help, because it'll give everyone a little bit more of a focus than just work and home, won't it? But I think it is a slow burner. I think what's happened as well within the industry is that people are understanding that mental health is a significant issue. We've sort of brought in counselling a couple of years ago within Convey Law, and an in-house complementary counsellor, just because people sometimes when they have anxiety or they're feeling stressed, it's not just about the volume of work, it's how they feel. And so, someone who can actually talk them through those feelings can actually have a considerable impact on how they perform, and how they deal with everything. And it's not necessarily, I'll just reduce the work. That won't necessarily always work. So it is about, sort of getting that awareness out there that actually counselling can help, and that there are solutions, so that people don't have to go and keep on suffering in silence. And Lawcare have done a huge amount of work in that respect, actually. It's a great website to go and have a look at.
Yeah. There's a number of excellent links on both websites, on the Be Kind with Care website as well, in relation to different resources, and also or top tips for staff internally from a personal point of view, and also tips for businesses at business level. I was going to ask you, actually, have you got any particular favourites on there from a staff
top
perspective?
tips? I think, we discussed it earlier a little bit, but I mean, working from home, you've got to be disciplined, haven't you? It's very easy to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and just keep working until 10 o'clock at night, still in your pajamas. So, you do away with the commute. But I mean, what we found is that, individuals, not coming into the office work a hell of a lot harder, and we found that people have actually, insisted on coming into the office 9 to 5, so that when they go home, they actually do stop. I mean, It's about finding your own level of discipline, it is. But I think as well, you've got to be quite disciplined in actually turning off. Otherwise, you ruminate. And you tend to ruminate in a sort of negative way. You remember all of the negative stuff that you need to sort of deal with, and that stays with you all evening, stops you sleeping, etc. So you actually sort of say, at 7, 8 o'clock, that's it, I'm done. All devices off. Let's just, chill out a little bit. I think that's a key one for me. Exercise as well, I think, is critical. And I think, the pandemic's taught us a little bit of that. I think, whether you're walking your dog, going for a walk, or actually going for, go to the gym, or whatever you can do. But, really, really critical, I think. But I think most of all, I think the most important thing is that teamwork. Within work, I think, you mentioned it earlier, but I think, working together, making sure that you are supporting your work colleagues, has been critical, really. So I'm pretty sure that perk box initiative that you've got going will help with that as well. Big shout outs for clients, or big shout outs for fellow employees, etc., when they've done a good job and things like that. It's a wonderful way to sort of reward them and recognise them, isn't it, and keep them motivated.
It is, and I think it's good to know as well, by doing these initiatives, that for our staff, I think it's hard for me to sometimes make them aware that their counterparts in other firms are probably going through similar types of emotions and similar circumstances. And I think that's an important message for us both to get across, really, isn't it? That we're actually all in a similar boat.
Yeah, we find that. And I think, the CA is a great forum for that, the Conveyancing Association, because I think, we all sort of share ideas. We understand that actually it's not just us. If it's us, everyone else is experiencing the same thing. And I think everyone within the CA is struggling at the moment with having too much work coming in, trying to deal with the work, trying to deal with a backlog, trying to sort of keep hold of good staff and make sure that they're getting through these, this difficult time. I'm sure we'll get there. But I think, ultimately, I think we'll all come out of it, as more responsible sort of business owners in terms of how we manage things, because we'll have the experience to actually sort of, make life better for everyone moving forward, won't we?
Yes, I think you're right. And do you think that the Be Kind with Care campaign will extend after normality has resumed, or do you think it's got a shelf life really until stamp duty holidays
well, I mean, certainly for the rest of this year, I think, but but also I think well into the future. I don't think that it's something that we kind of let the reins down on, really. We need to keep driving it, don't we? Because I think staff welfare, mental health, being kind to each other, I think those are things that should be with us the whole time, and we should be aware of them, especially as business owners. So we very much see it as a long-term initiative.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's good to hear. Well, Lloyd, thanks very much for talking to me today. Really appreciate your time. I hope our listeners have enjoyed it. One final question from me, which we do for everyone that's participated in a PLS podcast. Can you suggest 3 songs, please, for the PLS Spotify playlist, if you don't mind, and we'll play those later.
Definitely. I'm a big fan of Tom Jones, who's got to be Delilah. It was my son's favourite as well. Bat Out of Hell, got to have one of those, haven't you? Keep everything going. And Hen Wlad Van Hadai. There we are. Just to celebrate the Six Nations Championship winners.
No comment. But thanks very much. Thanks very much, Lloyd.
Thank you, Dan. I really enjoyed it.
All right.